Welcome, welcome. Season 4, Episode 7 of the Breaking Chains podcast. Now, today we're going to talk about remove in order to improve. Is that right?
Removing for improving.
All right.
Yeah.
Removing for improving.
Making space. It's like decluttering, right? It's like in order to even see the space you have to put something else in your life, you have to really remove things from your life. And a lot of us, I don't even want to say people, I am people, we think maybe adding one more thing to something will finally get us to fix, right? Like when you go to the doctor and you're sick. You go to the doctor, they'll like give you medication to add on top of, like you have gut issues. Oh, take this medication on top of everything else you're doing and taking, and this will help you help your gut. Well, what is like the real thing that most people need to do in order to help their gut?
You mean like the root cause?
Yeah, it's like root causes for everything. It's like what is here.
Yeah, so a lot of times it's like all about covering up the symptoms or pushing the symptoms away instead of working on the root cause.
Or not even to just make it about medical, right? Because I'm trying to like make this like analogy. But the reason why I use that is because a lot of us think by adding one more thing to our life, adding one more thing to our supplement stack, adding one more thing to what we do is going to take us to the next level. And sometimes it will. If you have space and if you've removed enough of the stuff that is taking up space that you need in order to get better, right? Because remember, the season is how to get better every day. And a lot of times getting better is subtracting, eliminating.
Yeah, so there's an old quote. I can't exactly remember exactly who it is or who said it, but it was, I don't know if it was Lao Tzu or Confucius, but it's almost like if you want more knowledge, you add. If you want more wisdom, you subtract.
Right. And so, you know, like when we think about relationships, we've talked about relationships before, but like when it comes to even friendships, a lot of times like we're calling in more friends. Like I want more friends. I want more community. I want more. Many times though, we don't realize that we have things in our life that are keeping us back. And 99% of the time, right, it's internal too. Like if you want less toxic friends, if you think like, oh, I need friends that are less toxic, what is usually keeping a toxic friend in your life? Your toxic behaviors.
Yeah, the same
that
patterns.
allowed the toxic friends to stay around, right? Because I don't know if you've had this, but if you had a friend that didn't like align with you anymore, what happens?
They just go away.
Yeah, but
you don't even have to do it. Sometimes you don't even have to do anything.
But sometimes you do.
Sometimes you have to maintain your boundaries.
Right. And like also listen to like your gut, like instead of keep continuing trying to like be friends with somebody. And sometimes like it's in your heart, like, oh, I don't want to let somebody go out of my life. But sometimes it's like, what does this person talk about when you're together? What does this person do for you in terms of helping you be a better person? And are you helping them be a better person? Are you able to help somebody be a better person if they're toxic?
But you wouldn't be able to see that unless you were in that level of awareness.
Right.
That's why it's so, I find it so like intriguing as we like continue to grow and mature on our journey. I wonder how much we do on our own and how much is done for us. I'm not sure where that starts and where it ends.
What came first, chicken or the egg? Right? It's like, it's very interesting as you say that too, in terms of, okay, your level of awareness helps you see like, okay, this person's not good for me.
Yeah.
But most of the times, if you just listen to yourself, you know, like, okay, what is actually happening here? Is this healthy? And does this person, I think in terms of like toxic relationships, you have to ask yourself, does it fuel me, like to be the way that I don't want to be, or does it fuel me to get better? And sometimes that toxic person can help you get better by you not feeding into it. So you going into the situation and practicing not feeding in. Mm-hmm. And then eventually that's when it starts to happen. It's always that inner work. So it's like you not feeding in. And then what happens? Like that person doesn't feel comfortable talking to you anymore.
Well, there's nothing to talk about anymore.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of calling more people in 2024, I want more friends, more relationships. It's like, what kind of friends? What kind of relationships? And then what do you have to subtract from your life in order to get better relationships? So like for you, what do you think, like when you think about relationships that you want, what do you want to call in when it comes to like, I want more friendships? Do you want more friendships? Relationships? Community?
Again, not trying to like really like I'm kind of in a place right now where I'm trying to see what life is offering me. And I feel like a lot of my recent relationships over the last couple of years, the way that they've come into my life was kind of like, did I ask for that? Or did they come into my life, but they also showed me what I do like and what I don't like? And so I can't tell you that like I thought one day and I was like, you know, I really want friends who do this, 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 and this. I think one day there was a cool person who I was speaking to and I was like, wow, man, I really vibe with them. And then I was like, wow, because of this experience, I want more friends like this. But it's almost like you're able to, through more awareness, you're able to experience in a different way. But I can't tell you that my thoughts about what type of friends I want in my life happened. I feel like they just showed up and then I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
This gets me thinking deeper, off topic, in terms of removing in order to improve, because this doesn't have to do anything with that really. But when we're talking about getting better and wanting more and being that creative genius, as we all are, like we have unlimited potential, infinite possibilities in this realm, gifted by God, right? Like, so the power of God comes through us by creation, right? So like if you're able to create, if you're able to imagine, if you're able to express, right? That is, so if you can't imagine or be creative in, you know, thinking about what you want, mm-hmm. Do you think there's an ability, I don't know if I'm making sense, but do you think that you're limiting yourself by saying, oh, I'm just take what I get? Like I meet somebody and that's or did you imagine that first?
I don't know. That's what I'm explaining. That's what I'm saying from my perspective. I can't recall that I sat back and was like, man, I really wish I had more friends who did this with me. I feel like one day I just met people and I was like, wow, we have a lot of things in common. You think that way too? Wow, that's incredible. And then the way that we connected was like, man, this is like best friends out of nowhere. I don't think my mind imagined, I can't recall my mind imagining that person. I remember.
I don't think it's so much as a person, but do you ever sit down and say, I would love more relationships. I would love to have friends that I could talk with them about this.
I feel like right now, sometimes I'm kind of like, man, I love having friends that I can speak to about things now. You know what I mean? Like they're in my life now, and I feel like I could talk to multiple friends about whatever right now. I didn't really have that before. And so,
do you remember maybe thinking a little inkling?
Maybe.
Like it would be nice to talk to somebody about this.
You know that I believe in law of attraction. You know that I believe in law of assumption. What I'm saying is if I had to be just totally...
It doesn't matter what I know. We're
candid,
having a conversation.
If I wanted to just be candid, I'm just saying I can't say that I can take full responsibility for creating the friends in my life. And quite honestly, if we really believe that God is the creator and God created us and God is everything, then my finite human brain could never think what life I want for myself like God could create that life for me. So if anything, if my imagination, no matter how incredible it could be, was all the way out here, it's still finite.
Right.
Where God could bring to me something that I could never have imagined.
You can't.
So
imagine.
I think there's a middle ground between feeling, if there could be a chore to it or a chore type feeling of needing to create every single thing in your life. I think there's also a space where life still is full of mystery and is able to like bombard you with blessings that you could have never imagined before.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I totally agree. I don't think we have much control at all.
I think that middle ground is the key of pursuing, good energy, higher frequency, higher vibration, and the law of attraction of what you would like to see in your life, but being open to whatever the universe wants to deliver to you.
So do you believe that you need to remove things in your life to make space for that? Or do you think everything just plays out?
I actually used to believe that. I used to be mad at myself. I didn't make a decision. Like, oh my God, like this should have happened. Why didn't you say this, etc.
In what sense? I don't understand that.
Just in general, like, oh, I should have stopped talking to this person, or I got to put up this really strong boundary. What I feel now is like naturally, even in terms of business, there's naturally a lot of times when if you see one of the team members is kind of starting to like phase out energy wise, like next thing you know, something happens. Doesn't mean you don't stand up and make decisions when you need to. The thing is that after a while, the energies are completely non-compatible and they just disappear.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not only talking about people. I mean, I think for me personally, it's not like I'm not talking to this person, I'm mad at this person. If we're talking about relationships right now and in order to improve, right? If I want to improve the relationships that I have, right? I need to remove obviously things that I do and maybe time that I spend giving energy to people. And that's what I mean by removing. I don't believe in cutting people out. It's, I don't do that. Like, I just don't cut people out of my life. I don't think it's a necessary thing. I think there's always a chance for forgiveness and love and, having an open heart and open arms for people. But there is definitely a conscious decision sometimes that needs to be made by me giving my energy to relationships that don't necessarily deserve it.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So I think that's more what I mean by.
But that's more of an intuitive feeling, right?
And or not even intuitive. Like, okay, I've been burned a couple times now, and it's clear that I'm putting way too much effort into this. That's what I feel.
I agree with that, and I think that, but it gives an opportunity to see what in that relationship is reflective of yourself.
Right.
And that's why I think that space and not, knee-jerk reactions are important, because I'm like, man, what am I learning from this relationship right now? Like, I'm not really feeling this. Is there something about myself that, I need to work on internally?
And or maybe that person is going through something internally
that you couldn't even imagine.
And you're just holding space, and that's why you kind of want to not let go.
Yeah.
Until they're ready to shake off what they need to.
I mean, if you want to be real, right? Like, I just, after 10 years or so, I just saw my older brother.
Yeah.
Right. So I haven't seen him for 10 years. And, then the other day, all the siblings, obviously you were there. We got to go out to dinner. Like 10 years kind of waiting, but not really waiting, but being there, just kind of holding that space that you said. Right. Nothing had to be said. And then one day, why was that decision made to reconnect again? I don't know. Yeah.
It's very interesting. But in order to have processed whatever needed to be processed by either you or him, there was that buffer time, right?
Exactly.
There was that space. And within that space, you got to fill your life with meaningful relationships.
100%.
So it doesn't mean that you can't always have more, but in order to open up your heart and open up anything in this life, in order to move up, I do believe it is a process of elimination.
Yeah.
Whether that is downloaded from God and it's divine, like things are just going to start falling off, or it's conscious. Like, I need to stop doing this. Like, let's talk about like horrible foods that are terrible for us. Like, that's not just going to be like one day, like, I mean, it could be, but God's like, all right, you're no longer going to be eating fast food every day, and you're going to eat all organic and natural. Like, that's a learned thing. Like, when it comes to some things, but it can be a learned thing with relationships too. But when it comes to food, you have to make conscious decisions. Like, I can no longer eat, I can no longer drink soda. It's terrible for me. It's poison. I know I must remove it. But then you have to replace that with something. So what am I going to drink instead? Water. Right?
Of course. But do you think it's about replacing a food or a drink, or is it about choosing a new identity? Choosing that I'm actually not that person that needed to eat that way to feel better inside, or to feel comfortable, or to, wallow in my emotions. I'm not that person anymore. I'm a stronger person. I'm a person who's healthy and is fit. And
I think real changes come from identity shifts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's like the smoker who, like,
Right.
all of a sudden tomorrow they go cold turkey on smoking. Like, they're just not that old person that they were before.
Yeah. You can't identify yourself as a smoker, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like with anything. Like, with politics, right? If you keep defending Democrats, all the Democrats do, and then one day you're like, oh shit, Democrats don't actually do anything I thought they did. I no longer am a Democrat.
Yeah.
Or a Republican, right? You have to realize that it's your identity that's defending the behavior pattern.
Agreed.
At the same time, what I keep going back to is, like, sometimes it is a very conscious choice first, and then with those small conscious choices, you realize your identity is shifting.
I agree.
Like, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight where it's just like, I'm a fitness guru and I'm just going to do everything health, fitness. Like, it's taken me, I've been in the fitness industry for over a decade now. And I felt like for so long, I was doing the right things, like, from the beginning, right? Like, I felt like I knew more at the beginning of my journey than I do now. Like, I thought I knew so much. I knew what proteins to give people. I knew what exercise routines to give people. Like, everyone, come to me. I have all the answers. Now I'm like, actually, I don't know. I don't have enough information. Don't ask me your fitness questions. Because, like, once you open Pandora's box, it's like overwhelming of all the things, right? Like, now if somebody comes to me about nutrition, it's like, ooh,
I don't think.
do you know what inflames you, right? Like, because it's not about me recommending a certain
Exactly.
protein. It's about what your body is asking for. What is your body telling you? It's way more directing the question right back.
I think your mode went from making statements about what you thought you knew to now being more discussions,
Right.
to actually come from their unique perspective compared to yours.
Right.
That's amazing. But now you have the ability to help transform more lives, or help them transform their own lives.
Their own lives. That's
Right?
what
Like,
it is.
so,
I don't
like,
have the answers
So
anymore.
but your knowledge, you might feel, is like lower, but your wisdom is up here.
Right. And that's cool. But that took me a lot of years of eliminating things out of my life to get here. It was more like, okay, I need to eliminate, dairy, right? I need to start eliminating things that inflame me. I need to eliminate actions that I was doing. Like, I actually need to stop lifting super heavy. My back doesn't feel good doing that. Like, my back was jacked up. I have to stop doing this, replace it with better movement for myself. I have to stop eating dairy. I have to replace it with a better protein and substitute calcium. So there are different things that need to happen, but a lot of how I got to where I came, where I am, is through elimination.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of like with my skin and stuff, and my eczema and all that. It's elimination, right?
Yeah.
Bottom line is living with less,
Yeah.
There's more.
You could think of a lot of things too. Like, I'm just going through the list of things we can eliminate out of our life to make our lives better. Super Bowl just happened. Tyler said he watched it. Woo woo. Did you know that who won the Chiefs? You knew they were going to win, right? Because of Mr. Pfizer dating Taylor Swift brought all the attention to them. It seemed like it was a setup, if you ask me, not to go into it. But like, I don't know anything about it. The more I heard about it, like I don't watch news, but obviously social media, if you look at the Taylor Swift, she brought a bunch of like people to football. I heard the viewers were down in football. She hopped in there, started dating this guy, viewers went up. He keeps winning, gets to the Super Bowl. He sponsors Pfizer shots and Biden and is an advocate for Biden. And then she's at every game and then like, ooh, Taylor Swift all over his screen. And then he wins the Super Bowl. Does that seem like a setup or no? I don't know.
Seems like a storyline.
Seems a little set up, but mindless entertainment, right? Because like at the end of the day, what does any of that do for us to get better? If you're thinking about how to improve your life, which is not a jab at anyone, it's like we all do mindless stuff. Sometimes it's how we get through life. It's like, all right, I just need a moment to turn my brain off and watch some. But like, I know people that would be like, I just need to go home and not think. So I watch like Real Housewives of Bel-Air or whatever. Do you actually think that's mindless? What it is it's mind control. It's teaching you that drama is normal, like catty drama. The Super Bowl. Let's distract you with all these things and this performance and the games. It's a distraction. So not that you can't do any of these things that are fun and mindless, but if you take the hours that you spend doing mindless things, could you eliminate some of those hours and put in there things for production? And it doesn't have to be production like I need to go make money, but like to grow yourself, to feel better about yourself, to feel less depressed, less anxious.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the law of attention, right? I think we talked about this before. Mm-hmm. It's just like, who's in control of my mind? Am I in control of it, or am I allowing the outside to be in control of it? But I think you have to have an internal reason why you would. What would make you want to distract from
your life?
Yeah, like what would? It's like you were conditioned from a kid to do that, right? We played video games. Like, we did. I mean, I was kind of blessed, I guess, being a kid a pretty good amount of time ago.
90s.
Like I was riding bike outside. I was playing manhunt, like hide
and go seek.
Yeah. And we used to be outside nonstop, but then video games came really quickly, then AOL, and then the internet, then email.
So fast.
And that was like when I was 15 years old. So like all of a sudden, boom, like your attention was pulled completely from yourself
instead
to
of having a creative mind. Now it's all the creation is made for you. And so you don't have to think about how to be, like, kids don't want to use their imaginations. Like, do you remember, like, I don't know. I remember sitting in a car, looking out the window and creating like stories about life, reading every billboard. I knew what every billboard, that's how I practiced reading the billboards, looking at the sky, thinking the moon followed me at night. Like, I remember looking out the window and just being entertained. Now, like, we feel, and it's us too who feels like our kids need to be entertained all the time, right? Instead of entertaining themselves. And there's just like, I'm bored. Like, my 5-year-old says, I'm bored. Like, you don't even know what boredom is.
Yeah, I know.
Like, going to a doctor's office and sitting at a doctor's office with nothing to do but read the magazines as a child. Now it's like, I need something all the time to play with. But like, this is our job to remove these things for their creative brain. And this goes back to relationships, right? And what kind of minds do we want to connect with? And this quote comes into my head. It was like, small minds discuss people. Average minds discuss events. Great minds discuss ideas. And when you think about that, ideas are creative imagination. Like, what can happen? If we did this, then we can create something.
Of course.
Right? But like if you're stuck in that loop of small-mindedness, of non-growth, it's like, guess what she did over there? Can you believe her? Let me tell you about this thing that happened, right? As opposed to looking towards the future and growing something from within.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my one question is for you, what made you look at how you were spending your time? Like, what was the motivating factor for you to be like, this TV or this Housewives of Atlanta or whatever it is doesn't make sense? Was there
it's kind of
external
weird.
reason?
It's kind of
or
weird. So
internal reason?
there was waves of what I've been through when it comes to like mindless entertainment to this day, right? It's like so when I was in college, I stopped watching the news like probably after college. Like I think together we kind of like was just like this. Like that was after college for me. Like at 24, I realized nothing but negativity was on the news. The first thing I eliminated from TV was news. Like this is absolutely not happening. Like in my house, I don't need the news on. It's just anxiety provoking. None of it is true. Like you don't know what's true. There's two different news channels saying two different things about the same thing. And it's like, how does either of these views help me? They don't.
So question about that. So you said the news and you said one day it was just like, it doesn't line up with me. So was it a decision that you made, or was it just a natural feeling that was already there that you tuned in with? Like, hey, this doesn't make sense for me anymore.
Yeah.
And you were just like, it doesn't line up with my vibration.
Right.
I got to get rid of this.
Right.
So did you actually consciously make that decision to remove the news, or was it made for you because it no longer aligned?
Yes and no.
I know this is like the conundrum sometimes that I'm trying to really hone in, that like for everybody, all the viewers, I'm trying to hone in on this, that something about your life allowed you to overcome or see this no longer lines up with me. And then naturally, because it no longer lined up with you, you removed it.
Right.
But was it a choice by chastity to remove it, or was it just, it had to happen that way because it was no longer a fit in your life?
I mean, I could honestly sit here and tell you I've done nothing my whole life and life just happened for me.
How's that feel?
It just feels like it is. And then the next step is I have to keep doing in order to keep going, right? So like my next step is usually something conscious, and it becomes more and more conscious as I walk. Mm-hmm. So when I walk, I have to walk conscious and make conscious decisions. Like I'm going to do this. My next step is going to go to Whole Foods and I'm going to buy this meal because this is healthy for me, because I've learned through my lessons.
Correct.
Right? So I still have to make conscious decisions. Everything
Agreed.
happened for me. I couldn't be here and say I did X, Y, and Z. I cannot give you the blueprint of how to be a successful mother of 3 with a successful husband, with a nice home and some cars. I can't give you that blueprint. What I can say is that you have to want to wake up. And that's the hardest part. You have to realize that everything you've been told is a lie. And you have to be okay with that. And that's the hard part. Like, oh, that's not true. Like, oh, snap. I am poisoning myself. You have to be okay with knowing that. And that's where the real work is. It's the mental work. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so I know you're like playing devil's advocate a little bit. Like when I'm like, you have to remove in order to improve. But like,
I'm actually not playing devil's advocate. I agree with you.
Yeah.
My question is, are we personally removing it, or is it being removed for us, by us, in a different way?
both.
The reason
It's
why
both.
The reason
It's
why
like-
I even bring this up
You're
is
kind of
because
having a different conversation than me right now.
no, it's the same conversation, but I think it's important for the viewers for us to understand that it's not like our way is the right way. Because even now, I ask myself the question, like, did I make this decision, or did it just no longer align with me? And then naturally that was there. What made it no longer align with me? Like, we could keep going into layers and layers and
Yeah.
layers. And so I think one of the reasons is that it's not about people just following or like, hey, this is what we did. I think it's like people have to find their own magic formula, like what makes sense for them.
Right.
How can we give them that space to like encounter,
I think what
discover
you
themselves?
said was huge about checking in with your identity, what you identify with. And I think that's a huge removal thing, your identity. Like, you have to be willing to drop labels of yourself, like removing labels. That's the biggest removal of all. Like, even when it comes to as deep as, and this is controversial, but black and white. Right? And it's easy for me to say that because I'm mixed. It's easy for you to say that because you're mixed. It's like, I'm not black, I'm not white. And I know when you are, and I can't be in the skin of somebody else, and I don't know what they're going through, and I can never talk for somebody else. But I know that once I stopped even trying to, it felt so good. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even need a label. Like, you don't have to call me anything. You call me Chastity, you call me her, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. Nothing you say about what you think I am is going to offend me because I don't identify with any of it. And the harder we hold on to our label, though, no, but it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, I don't want to let go of it, the deeper the suffering is.
So do you think, like, even going back to the Super Bowl, do you think that that's another label that you've identified with where you're just like, man, I got to continue to love football because all my friends love football. And if I stop loving football, then, oh my God, like, I'm not going to have friends anymore, and I'm not going to drink. And then if I don't drink, I'm not going to be able to be drunk. And then
if I don't watch it, then I won't have anything to discuss with the people that did, because we're discussing the event that happened. Because it's pretty average to discuss events, right? Like, here's what happened. What'd you think about it? Would you think, like, it's what happens. This is how we have conversations.
But it's a
like,
story, right?
How do I have friends without doing what everybody else is doing? And it is an attachment to identification, identity, to what you think you know, as opposed to wanting to explore, and having these conversations like, ooh, boof, am I doing anything at all?
And even if I think the true thing is, like, we gave up TV a long time ago, and we gave up the news and all that. And it's so funny that, like, I gave up football a while back, pretty much sports I gave up. And I have no problem telling anybody, like, I don't really watch that. It's not a big deal because that's my life. But the funny thing is I went from a whole different group of friends to a whole nother group of friends that I actually personally feel like much more authentic relationships with that can talk about the deeper stuff in life. Nothing against sports. Like, right now, if a football game's on, I'll probably watch 5 minutes
or
of it.
your old friends who did something for you at that point in your life.
100%.
Because, like, everybody is here for a reason. Everybody has their meeting point.
Exactly.
Right? If you think about, like, even like a DNA strand, how it interweaves and crosses points at one point, right? Like, we're all just here passing by, connecting. And everybody has a purpose.
It's almost like at every level of life, you're being supported by where you're at.
By life itself and nothing else. There's nothing can be.
And that's why there's, like, I feel like
destroyed.
I'm not here to say, like, anything's right or wrong. It's just where you're at in your life. So like, if you're in a toxic place in your life right now, you're probably going to be surrounded by toxic friends.
Because
from there, though, you might be in a different level.
If one of your friends now, who's your friend now, came to Chris Jones, who was 18, 19, 20. You'd be like, yo, this person's a weirdo. Like, that's the reality of it. Like, yo, what are you talking about, bro? Like, you. Oh,
they would call me a weirdo.
No, you wouldn't be there. Maybe both.
They'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with Chris? Same,
like, there's no, right, if your friends
Like,
Either
what are
way,
you talking about?
you
Meditation.
You weren't the same person. You're not the same person. So
Yeah.
how are you possibly your personality is literally changed.
Yeah.
That's like the number one thing. So first it's identity that goes, and then it's your personality, because your personality will change
As your identity.
as your
changes.
habits changes.
Yeah.
Because when your identity changes, your habits change, and your personality is going to change because you're no longer the same persona.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, having compassion with wherever they're at. But to me, it's more truth that we understand that it's not about actually fixing the outside. It's about working on the inside.
Like always.
Because naturally, whatever we're working on the inside, naturally, we're going to attract that into our life.
But you're going to want, I think one of the big, like if somebody's watching this, right? Like, because obviously when we're doing self-development, we are looking for, what do I do next?
Yeah.
How do I even get there? How do I start eliminating things and people? Do I have to, like, how do I get rid of this toxic friend? Like maybe that toxic friend will grow with you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about eliminating a toxic friend, but you have to make the decision to be okay with losing anybody and everybody.
I agree with that. You also have to be willing to make the decision to put up your personal boundaries of what you're willing to put up with and not put up with.
Yeah. And that's a big one.
Because that automatically either kind of brings in a friend or pushes a friend away by your boundaries. And that's respect to yourself.
How somebody talks to you. Like some people just are okay with like name calling.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something that like I'm a hard no on, like name calling. I don't like calling names. I don't like people calling me. I just don't like name calling. And like none of my friends will call me a name.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be like, yo, don't call me names. It's just naturally that way. Like it just won't happen.
Yeah.
It's just a boundary, whether you see it or not, it doesn't happen, right? I'm not comfortable with it. It's okay for me to be uncomfortable, but it's just something that I don't think is necessary, right? So that's like one thing that I can think of when it comes to like a boundary with relationships. Like we don't call each other names at all. Like, and I've never had to be like, yo, don't call me names, right? Actually, one time.
One time what?
I know we had that conversation.
What'd I call you?
No, in Florida, you're like, I'm bitchy.
So I didn't call you a name. I said there's times that you can be bitchy.
Which I don't think is okay either. But
really?
So,
like I didn't call you a name.
It's not my personality. I'm not bitchy.
Okay. So you no longer need to identify with that.
I don't identify with it. That's why I was very shocked.
Okay.
When you identify with it, it must be a projection.
I'm happy to look at myself about that.
Good.
I won't run
Go
away
deep.
from that. I will.
I'm sure you could all agree that chastity is not bitchy at all. Moving on. So I think a lot of times when you are, like you said, when you're leveling up, when you're getting better, things will naturally drop off. You don't have to, but you have to make conscious decisions sometimes of removing things out of your life. And we talked about this in an episode, toxic households. Like you have to remove toxins out of your house in order to detox.
Yeah.
You can't be doing like a heavy metal detox and doing a cleanse. Like I'm going to do a juice cleanse for 3 days and then cleaning your tub with bleach, spraying Lysol in your air, doing plug-in air fresheners, lighting fake scented candles all throughout your house. That's all toxins coming right back into your system.
Yeah, I think it all starts with like what you always talk about, like you have to understand to some degree what you want.
Yeah.
Right? And this is why typically when you hit a low place in your life, it's when your life is right in front of you and you're watching it all and it doesn't feel good. And that's when the moment in time when you can actually say to yourself, I really want something different from my life. And so for many people, including myself, I think that's where you just get hit and you're like, I need something different. So I think starting about what they want is part of that process. The second thing is making conscious decisions about how they want to support what that vision looks like, knowing that they are the answer to it. And number 3, I would say giving yourself patience and compassion and love for the journey, because it's a challenging one.
Yeah. And there's no right way to go about this, right?
No right way.
No right way. But there is a couple of steps that you can take. You can start thinking about your life and think about like 3 things in all areas. You could think of something in your relationship life, your work life, and your personal life. And like have a goal for each one. And it doesn't have to be a big goal. It could be like, in my self relationship, I would just like to be happier in my clothing, right? I would just like to like feel good what I wear. That could be as simple as changing your wardrobe. It doesn't have to like start, but usually it has to do with like exercising and eating right. Like you have to usually do inner things. Number 2, when it comes to like relationships, like outer relationships, I would say, how do you want to be loved by somebody else? And picture that. And then in your work life, have a goal of, wow, there's something that I actually want to do. I'm going to start working towards that. Whether it's like 10 minutes a day. Like I love kids. I'm going to start researching how to work with kids or something like that. I love social media. I'm going to start researching how to make money off of social media instead of letting social media use me. I think there are so many ways to enjoy and change your life very simply by little baby steps and working slowly towards something better for yourself, no one else, right? No one else can be you. So it's all about what you want in your life.
Agreed. That's good. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you guys. Hope we're a little clear on that. That was a little all over the place.
Hey, sometimes it's not as clear cut. The fact of the matter is, I think our discussions are trying to help everybody understand their own path.
Yeah.
We don't want you to follow what we do. We're just trying to put out there potential questions you can ask yourself, because only you are going to live your life, and you deserve to live the best life, and that can only come from you. So thank you for working with us today, listening to us. And it's all work. It's all work.
Go in there.
But
do that work.
Subscribe, share,
comment.
And comment. And
I think we're almost at 100 subscribers.
Thank you guys for your time today. Love you. Peace.